There's 3 things I think we need to change with travel calls. And the first reason is because what I just did there would be a travel for some leagues and not for others. Rewind it and watch that clip and tell me why you think it would be. So the first reason slash thing I think we need to talk about is consistency. Actually, a lot of these have to do with consistency. And as we're going throughout this video, if you think, wow, no, that's for sure a travel, I have another video that I'm gonna link you to at the end that talks about 5 travel calls that almost everyone gets wrong. They're things that are legal on all levels. And that's the first issue with consistency, is the consistency among levels of play. That would have been legal on NBA, not legal in NCAA and high school, and also would have been legal in FIBA. And it's the same thing I did in the beginning video. We're talking about the gather step. Now there's also another consistency issue with that we'll talk about a little later, but basically a gather step, a lot of people get confused about this, is basically if this foot's already down and then I pick up the basketball, that's my gather step. If I pick up the basketball mid-air and then this foot lands, that is not a gather step. So it basically only applies to when a foot's already on the ground and then you pick up the basketball. That is not considered a step in NBA and FIBA because they're looking at a step as any time after you have the ball in both hands or, pinned or some type of a gather, that when a foot touches the ground after that point is considered a step. Therefore, if this foot's on the ground, I pick up the basketball, I get 1, 2 steps. On high school and NCAA levels, if this foot's on the ground and then I gather, it doesn't matter. That's still considered step 1, or my pivot foot, which is usually the way they're gonna find it. Whichever foot hits first is a pivot. And I can lift that pivot to go for a layup or any other move for that matter. I could, do this and then lift it. A lot of people think that's not legal. Again, the video at the end will help clarify a lot of those confusions that a lot of people have. Again, another issue maybe with consistency, but I think that has more to do with what people are being taught. But this foot can lift. I just have to get rid of the basketball, the pass, shoot, something like that before the foot comes back to the ground. Big issue because it's not consistent from league to league. And now kids think some things are legal that are not because they're legal in the NBA and FIBA, but then they're not legal in their actual leagues. But there's another problem. The issue is that this is not consistently called the same on high school levels and NCAA. A couple examples. Number 1, a lot of players are gonna barely have this foot down as they're picking up their dribble and go up for the layup, and they're just gonna get away with that little tippy toe touching the ground. Now that's, I think, a big reason why the NBA and FIBA just said, let's just give them that step and call it the gather, because on a lot of those levels, they're gonna let them get away with that tippy toe touching the ground. And again, there's a consistency issue with some refs calling it, some not. Another example, which is now becoming a point of emphasis on high school levels, is on spin moves. A lot of times you'll see them gather barely with this foot, just barely coming off the ground, and then they'll take their 1, 2 steps. That technically, according to high school rules and NCAA rules, should be considered a travel. However, you'll see a lot of players get away with it and they never call it, but now they decide they want to make it a point of emphasis and then start calling it. You can see how that gets confusing. And here's a really big problem with consistency issues. And this is illegal in all leagues. And it's basically, if I'm jabbing here, this is my pivot foot and this is my jab foot. If I lift this foot before the ball leaves my hand to dribble, that's technically a travel. The problem is the consistency. Lifting the pivot foot is not legal before you started your dribble. However, if I've just ended my dribble, got my pivot foot, I can go ahead and lift that pivot foot before getting rid of the basketball. And that is legal on all levels. So you can see how this could cause confusion among players, because now they're hearing that lifting the pivot foot is legal or not legal, and it just depends on the situation. And an even more confusing thing to think about is, well, what if you catch the ball in the post and you got this pivot foot? Is that step through still legal? Actually, it's not if we're going by the rules that we're talking about before starting your dribble, because you haven't started your dribble. But that's what I'm not so clear on. If we got any refs watching this video, go ahead, leave a comment, let us know. So here's a simple solution for all these issues, and I think it comes back to what I've been talking about the whole video: consistency. How about we just have a universal set of rules for all leagues so there's no confusion? How about we call it consistently so there's no confusion? And how about we make those rules about lifting the pivot foot consistent one way or the other for both before starting your dribble and after ending your dribble? That's just my opinion. Leave a comment, let me know what you think, and you can watch the video on 5 travel rules everyone gets wrong right here. Hit the like button if you found the video helpful, and I'll see you in that video.